Jim Green is a South African shoe company making exceptionally quality shoes for great prices. After the success of their first barefoot shoe, the Barefoot African Ranger, they changed up their business model in a pretty significant way, offering custom barefoot options for their entire lineup, as well as continuing to collaborate on new barefoot options. Today we talk about the second such collaboration. This is the Barefoot African Trooper. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sons of Seaver YouTube channel, where there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear. My name is Eric. Today, my brother Chris and I are going to review for you the Barefoot African Trooper. It's a boot that we are super excited about. Now, to start things off with, big shout out to Weston over at Rose Anvil, as well as Gareth and the whole team at Jim Green for collaborating together and making this boot. It was one that was in high demand after the Barefoot African Ranger came out. People wanted a higher version, and I think it took about 15 iterations or something like that to make this become a reality. So a lot of work went into this. Again, big shout out to both of those guys, because we think that they did an awesome job with it. It's a boot that we've really liked so far and that we're really excited to share our experience with you about. Now, if you want to get more into the technical specs of the boot, definitely go and check out the videos from Rose Anvil and from Jim Green. They're going to go into really what made this boot up a lot more in depth than we are. This is going to be more of an experience-based review, just like all of our reviews are. So Chris and I are going to go back and forth talking about the things we like and the things we don't like about the shoe, the ways that it's worked for us and the ways that it hasn't. There's timestamps down in the description of the video, but I'm going to pass it over to Chris now so that he can start us off with his likes.
Getting into my likes of the Barefoot African Trooper, I am going to talk about three main things. The first one is that these things are extremely rugged. The second thing is that we love the performance of the traction pattern. And the third one is I think that these are a dang good looking shoe. Getting into that first one, the rugged performance of this thing, because it basically covers from below your calf and down. Up to that point, you feel invincible. Any branches or twigs or anything sticking out of the sides of the trails that you are on, you're not going to notice them as they brush past this part of your leg and foot. It's also going to do a really good job at keeping out debris because this tongue goes all the way up. So nothing is going to have any way of getting in here unless it gets over the top here. Now, if you're a person who wears your pants over your boots, you're not going to have an issue, but I actually tuck my pants into high boots like this and still no issues because of how tight this guy seals to my leg. Now, it's not an uncomfortable tightness, it's actually very comfortable tightness with how I've got these things set up, but I just love how indestructible I feel in these. Moving on to how much we love the traction of this outsole. This was designed by our buddy Weston at Rose Anvil, and we loved how this performed on the Barefoot African Ranger, and we find that it performs just as well on the Trooper. The weird thing about this traction pattern is obviously it's going to do great on all the surfaces you expect it to. It's going to do great on gravel, dry dirt, rocks, all of those things. This outsole, for whatever reason, has this sticky quality to it where it does really, really well on snow and ice. So we haven't worked with this specific boot on snow and ice, but because it's the same outsole pattern as the Barefoot African Ranger, and that did see snow and ice, we know that this thing is going to perform just as well in all of those same environments that the outsole of the Barefoot African Ranger did. Getting into my final like of the Trooper, it is the Trooper style of this boot. I really like a higher ankle style boot, a boot that, like I said at the beginning, you can tuck your pants down into. Not only do I love the ruggedness of this, I just love the way that it looks. I like the aesthetic. I also think that this fits in a lot of the same categories that we thought the African Ranger fit into. So I would not shy away from wearing these to church or a collared shirt shindig of some kind, and I also wouldn't shy away from wearing it just casually, except that it's really tough to get on and off. Maybe that's something to kind of shove towards the dislikes area, but overall, I love the aesthetic of this thing. I love the way that it looks and the vibe that it gives off.
Okay, when it comes to my likes of the Barefoot African Trooper, the first and I think most obvious thing about this boot that I like is the construction quality. So when it comes to barefoot boots, which are, toe box shaped and flat and fairly flexible, Jim Green easily has the most quality boots out there on the market right now. They are definitely at the top of the game with the way that they're constructing these things, because they are built like tanks. They prioritize the construction quality over weight, which is something that other barefoot brands are not willing to do, and it definitely comes as a hit to the quality of those boots. So some good examples of things on here that prove just how almost indestructible they are is it's got a true leather toe cap. So you've got a 2.3 millimeter nubuck leather that this whole thing is made out of, and you've got double the amount on your toe, so like 4.6 millimeters. That is definitely a burly toe that you've got there. You also have the stitch down construction. They use a 2.2 millimeter cord to sew everything down. So again, that's just really thick. It adds a little bit of weight, but it's definitely going to add some quality and some lifetime to the boot. As far as the outsole goes, it's just like the African Ranger. So not only is this thing built like a tank, but you can also fix it if the outsole starts to delaminate or you completely wear through that tread. Then you can go take it somewhere, they can peel it off, they can glue on a new one for you. So the fact that it's built so well and that it's built to be repaired is one of the best qualities of this boot. Now it also has really great barefoot attributes. Jim Green has already been making their boots on pretty wide lasts, and we would like to see them a little bit wider, but for the most part this fits my foot and it's just fine. I also enjoy the fact that it is zero drop, so that doesn't throw off your posture, and like we said, it is fairly flexible too. So the barefoot attributes that come along with this boot are really great. I really like the styling of it. It's a really cool looking boot in my opinion. I love the inspiration that it's taken from with the World War II paratrooper boots. That's just something that's really, really cool. And with that cool style comes the fact that it's an 8-inch boot and gives you a ton of protection. So I just think that all of that combined means that it has a lot of use cases as well. It's going to be a fairly versatile boot for you, whether it's something that you want to take out on the trail or use in the shop or just go around town with. The fact that it's a nice looking leather shoe means that I can also get away with it at church, and I've worn it at church a few different times and I always get compliments from people. Another thing that I really like about the boot is that it gets comfier over time. So as that leather breaks in, it really starts to mold to your foot, especially with the leather footbed that you have under there. It starts to shape to your foot, and every time that you put it on, it gets comfier and comfier. Alright, so something that I want to do with this boot as well, when I get into my dislikes, I'm going to have cleaned it up. As you can see, it is pretty dirty. Jim Green just released their own leather balm, and so they sent us over a pair when we got the Troopers, and I'm going to use that to clean up the shoes and then show everybody what that looks like so that you can get a feel for what it would be like to pick up a pair of this to go with the boots that you order from them. Obviously, the leather, over time, it's going to dry out. You're going to want to keep it up if you want those shoes to last as long as they should, and this is a great way to do it, so I'm going to try that out for you. When you get to my dislikes, the boots will be cleaned up and looking probably a little bit different. Alright, before sending it back over to Chris to start us off with our dislikes of the shoe, we wanted to talk about some affiliates that we have going on with the channel right now. The first one is Jim Green. So there is a link in our description. You can use it to get to their website, and if you use that link and that results in a sale, we do get a small commission from that. No extra cost to you, but it really does help us out. It puts more gear into our hands. It gets more reviews out to you. We actually just purchased a pair of Vivo Barefoot boots with affiliate link money that we've gotten, so thank you everybody who's used those links. Just know that we are investing it back into the channel, and if this video has piqued your interest in Jim Green and the Barefoot Trooper or the African Ranger or anything else that's in their lineup, you want to go take a look at their custom builder and make your own barefoot boot, then definitely use that link to get to their website. Something that would pair perfectly with a wide toe box and barefoot shoe of any kind is a pair of toe socks, and we like Creepers toe socks. It's consistently our most favorite. So it won out the very first toe sock video compilation that we ever did, where it beat out 7 other brands of toe socks, and we've now reviewed probably like 15 plus brands of toe socks, and these guys are still on top. We love the way that they feel, the way that they perform, the way that they fit. We think that they're really great, so use that link in our description to get to Creeper's website. Now, back over to Chris.
Getting into my dislikes of the Trooper, something I want to mention that Eric and I both experienced while using this thing out in the mountains is that longer distances, that heel rubs. It rubbed for both of us. It was worse for Eric. It may be the way that we lace things up. It may be that this thing does need more break-in, but you can see we've broken these things in pretty good. The leather is pretty soft and pliable. The boot overall is way more flexible than it was when it got to us, but we still had issues with our heels getting rubbed pretty raw. Getting into the only other thing that I could nitpick on this thing that I don't like, it's going to be the toe box, which is definitely wider than other traditional boots out there on the market like this. These things get really narrow from other companies, but even with this wider last that Jim Green has been using for their Barefoot boots, I think that they could go a little bit wider, and they may be working on that. I am hoping that they are. I think that will please a lot of the Barefoot people out there, including Eric and I. I would love to see just a little bit wider of a last from Jim Green for their Barefoot versions of their boots. Getting into my final opinion of the Barefoot African Trooper, could I recommend this to a barefoot shoe person who is looking for a trooper style boot? I think I absolutely could. One, because I don't think you can really find another one out there. If you can, it's probably not going to be as high quality as Jim Green. Jim Green's track record for quality when it comes to leather goods is way up there. They've been doing this for a while, and they have been doing it well. We've loved everything they've sent to us. Again, I would love to see them experiment with a wider last, a more foot-shaped shape to their boots when it comes to their barefoot styles specifically. This is better than most that are out on the market, but I think they could go a little bit further. But for now, these things are going to sell like hotcakes. I believe they are shipping this month in October, so if you want to grab a pair, I'd hustle. Use the link down in the description to go over to their website and grab yourself a pair of these guys. I don't think you're going to regret it.
Okay, I'm back after having cleaned my Troopers with the brand new Jim Green Leather Balm, and here are the results. So I had the fudge colorway, and now I would call these more of a walnut. Now I knew that it was going to get darker by using a leather balm like that that's got beeswax in it, but I didn't think that it was going to go quite this dark, and you know, it totally changed the color of that fudge boot, and luckily I really like it, so it's a good thing. But yeah, I really like the product. The leather is very soft now, very supple, and I think it did a really good job rehydrating it and everything. So definitely think about picking up some of this with any of the boots that you get from Jim Green. It's totally sourced from things in South Africa, so it's got marula fruit, macadamia nut oil, beeswax, and sugarcane wax, and again, that's all from South Africa. So it's cool that they're keeping it local and they're making such a good quality product like Jim Green always does. Alright, so now getting into my dislikes of the Trooper boot, and the biggest one is that they just aren't instantly comfortable the same way that other barefoot boots are, and that's understandable because they're constructed so differently. But just to illustrate that a little bit, when Chris and I got the Boulder Boot Summit from Lems, we got those into our hands the next day. We took them out. We went on a hike that was 8 miles. We had like about 3,000 feet of elevation gain or something like that. No blisters, no issues, total comfort. Now with this one, I had it for a good 3 weeks to maybe even a month before we took it on our really big hike, and that entire time I was wearing it around the house and wearing it out so that I could break it in, and I thought that it had been broken in enough to the point where it was really comfortable just to wear around casually. But then we took it on that hike, and this to this day is the only boot that's given me a blister on any of the hikes that we've done. So I think that the reason for that is because the heel stiffener that it has. This thing just is really stiff, and it's been hard to break in. There's also a bunch of material that you can see that kind of bends down right there, and I think that's why I got the blister that I did. So in my experience so far with these boots, they do really well if you're hiking on like flat ground, and I got to take them out into the desert and kind of test them in the environment that they were meant for. So I took them down to Capitol Reef with me, and anything that was flat was totally fine, had no issues with them. But once Chris and I took them into the mountains and we got to the point where we were really getting some elevation gain out of them, then I started getting all that rubbing back here on the heel, and I got that blister. So if there's anything that I don't like about them, it's just that they take a really long time to break in. They aren't instantly comfortable like other barefoot boots are. So when it comes to my final opinion about the Jim Green Barefoot African Trooper. I really like this boot. I think it's a really cool collaboration that Rose Anvil and Jim Green came up with. We really hope that they continue to collaborate with each other because so far we like what they've made. Just to reiterate, you know, those likes, the build quality is just top notch. I don't think you're going to find a better barefoot boot out there as far as the build quality and the repairability goes. They're totally unmatched in that facet. I really like the look of the boot. I think it's got some awesome inspiration from the World War II trooper boots, and they do become comfortable over time. They do just take a lot of break-in, and they're not the best hikers as far as elevation gain goes. I think that could continue to get better over time as the hill continues to soften up for me, but so far that's the experience that we've had with them. I definitely don't want to fail to mention that Jim Green is doing a lot of good in the world as well. On the website, it lists these ones as another pair of boots that every 10 of these that they sell, they donated a pair to real African Rangers that are out there on the ground doing some awesome work, you know, protecting animals from poachers and things like that in Africa. So on top of the amazing build quality that these have, they're also doing a lot of good in the world. It's a reason why we really like Jim Green as a company and why we're super stoked to be able to continue to work with them. So definitely recommend these from them. If you're looking for a really tough barefoot boot that's got this 8-inch height for you, these ones are going to be really, really hard to top in our opinion.
Folks, if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. All those things really help the channel out. If you're interested in any of the products that we talked about in this video, there will be links to them down in the description. If we have discount codes for any of those companies, they will be featured with the links. If you want to get more content from us, there are 3 different places you can get it. The first one is Patreon, where for $1 a month, you can get exclusive behind-the-scenes content we don't post anywhere else. If you want to be most up-to-date with what we are working on, make sure to follow us on Instagram, where we are constantly posting unboxing videos. Go follow us on Strava if you're interested in seeing mini reviews in real time of the products we're using and what we're using them for. Strava allows you to track and post about your different activities. We track and post about our runs, trail runs, hikes, paddleboarding, and weightlifting, and we do little mini reviews on the products we're using during those activities. Go follow us there, and we will follow you back. We appreciate your view, and as always, we will catch you in the mountains.